Hi, welcome to Help with Hannah Jones. I'm Hannah Jones. We are back and in a studio space with high quality audio and video. Thank you, Patreon patrons, for making that possible. And thanks, Dude IDK Studios in Denver, for letting us record here. This is a podcast where I answer your questions, Dear Abby style, and I have a guest in the studio today to help me do that. She's one of my favorite comics in Denver. She's the co-creator of Dyketopia and has her own podcast about Degrassi. Welcome, Kate McLaughlin.
Hi.
Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
Hi, Kate. How are you doing? How's your day?
Good. How are you?
Good. I went to the grocery store yesterday to get normal groceries for a normal week, and then I was like, I'm gonna be so fun. I'm gonna be such a main character today. I decided to impromptu make ceviche and like invite my friend over to hang out by my apartment has a pool, and so I'm like making ceviche, and it's taking a really long time, and I'm like juicing all the limes, and then my cat knocks over the bowl of lime juice. It spills everywhere. There's like 2 ounces of lime juice, which is fucking gold.
That's a lot to squeeze.
And then I got so mad at her, I had to put her in like my closet to keep her away for a second. Finished making it. The shrimp never got cooked in the lime juice, so I had to just eventually put them into a skillet.
So you just marinated shrimp for a long, long time.
So I just made shrimp salsa at the end of the day, and then my friend was making fun of me for making shrimp salsa.
You know, I've
had better days.
I was about to ask how it was going with your cat, so...
And you know what? We've fallen into a really good rhythm sometimes where I only get mad at her like once a day.
Okay. How old is she?
She's like 16 weeks-ish.
Okay, so kitten's gonna kitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I definitely am not trying to change who she is. I'm just trying to lock who she is in a bathroom for like 10 minutes a day.
I'm sorry, is my mom in here? That was crazy.
Well, that's my rose/thorn of the day.
You know, my day was a lot more chill, albeit boring, because I worked until about 30 minutes ago.
And then came straight here.
And then I came straight here. I did put makeup on, though, which I was excited. I feel like I'm figuring out how to use foundation for the first time in my natural life.
Where were you putting it before, Kate?
It was always on my face, bonus points, but it was not like properly applied.
You were putting it on your eyelashes with a spoolie, just like, it's not working.
Who's gonna love me? But no, so I'm not spoolie no more.
Okay.
Sponge.
Oh, yeah, I could never get into the sponge thing.
I just figured out, like, a way to deal with the sponge. I'm sure the comments will let me know if I did a good job. So
there'll be no radio silence from everybody.
And then we'll know who the real fans are.
Okay, great. Before we get into the questions that you guys submitted, so one, this podcast is sponsored by the Patreon. Patrons have first priority to get their questions answered, and they get a bonus episode every month that's exclusive to the Patreon. The Patreon costs $3. That is a price I chose because $3, not to brag, is like a nothing amount. It's literally insane to not want to pay $3. That's like a toll on a not that busy highway.
It's the price of my Wellbutrin.
I consider it a steal. That's the price of your Wellbutrin?
Yeah.
Okay, health insurance.
I need Medicaid, but like...
There's also like audio and video of my comedy sets if you have any particular interest in that. Subscribe to the Patreon. There's links in the description of the podcast as well as my social media. Second of all, if you want to ask a question to get answered in a future episode, you can find the link to that form in the podcast description or in my link tree in any of my social media platforms. Great. Welcome to the podcast, you guys. We've officially begun. First question. There's like two different. Some people had just said talk about sobriety on the podcast, please. And then one person specifically said, I'm working on my alcohol consumption. Do you have any good tips and tricks for not descending into substance abuse? I like picturing it as a slide where if you're not climbing up, you are falling down.
But like a slide that like spirals around as a metaphor.
But both of us have recently had conversations about working on moderation, so I thought that would be a good question to ask you.
I think that's a great place to start. So I just recently finished 100 days of not drinking, which was the most in my adult life.
Congrats.
Yeah. I woke up hungover on the day after Valentine's Day for literally no reason. Like,
not because like Valentine's Day?
No, I mean, it wasn't even like an excessive night of drinking.
Oh, you had one of those moments where you're like, I'm old now.
Yeah, I was starting to get heartburn, which really was a mind fuck, like psychologically.
When alcohol starts giving you heartburn, that's your body telling you you've reached that age.
Yeah, like, oh, can you touch your toes? I'll bet not, you dumb bitch. Like, that was what my body was telling me. So, yeah, I stopped for 100 days. I had a very elegant solution, which was that I was violently high for most of it. And I'd say it worked out pretty well.
Right.
As
hopped off of one wagon onto another.
Yeah, I was straddling wagons, but I got really into non-alcoholic beer.
I've gotten into non-alcoholic beer recently, too.
So which ones are you drinking?
Well, okay, there's the groovy, hoppy is my favorite.
Nice.
But most of the time, if they just have a non-alcoholic beer, I'm just pleased as punch it's on the menu.
Same. Yeah, the non-alcoholic IPA, I feel like, does the best job of tasting like beer.
Yeah. Scratching that itch of like having a treat is what's really important to me ultimately.
Yeah, so that's been fun to like, even though I'm drinking sometimes now, to still like have that at home. Yeah. And stuff.
I didn't take a break from drinking. I feel like every 6 months since I was like 22, I've sat down with myself and decided to drink less overall. And then I do.
Oh, that's smart. That's cool.
Except the pandemic. That was a bit of a spike. But everything else, I just like gradually drink less and less. And then regretfully, I'm always like, oh, this is good for me.
Dude,
Decidedly. Fuck.
But you know, the kind of backfire of when I stopped drinking is that my social anxiety took me to a place where I was worried about like being social in places where I couldn't drink.
Yeah.
Like my friend had a birthday party at the Grizzly Rose, and the idea of going there sober,
I don't think it's allowed.
I don't think I'm allowed to be there.
They have breathalyzers at the door, and if you're blowing sober enough to drive, they turn you away.
Well, luckily it's really close to the interstate too, so that's always really nice.
It's an alcohol checkpoint where the cops are there, and they give you a field sobriety test, and if you're sober, you get back on the highway. If you're not sober, you go directly into Grizzly Rose.
And I just wasn't willing to deal with that because I didn't want to drive 100%. On the interstate. So I ended up not going to one of my best friend's birthdays. And now that I'm out of like not drinking, I think I would go and maybe just have a beer.
Yeah, that's where I have landed on the past too. Yeah. And I have friends, I think there are like solidly two types of people in the world when it comes to habits. There's like cold turkey and like moderation. And like for me, the whole point of crafting a really good relationship with alcohol is so that I still have the option occasionally.
Yeah, same.
I feel like for me, it's about becoming like more aware of how I'm using it as a crutch, because I am. Because why would anyone else? I don't believe, like, it's just the flavor. Like, you can get the flavor from a non-alcoholic beer. I'm using it so that I'm a little bit easier to talk to.
We stand a self-aware
1 hour at a time so that I can maybe do karaoke for once in my fucking life.
I will say non-alcoholic wine tastes like shit.
Yeah,
it's like
but
vinegar.
So does alcoholic wine, so I think that's good to remember.
Okay, so you don't like wine.
No, but when you drink alcoholic wine, it's like it's alcoholic enough that I feel like you get like a little rush of dopamine that impacts the flavor in a genuine way. Like the way that red wine goes down, once it gets to about here, it's like
Oh, I love the taste of wine.
Good in your mouth.
Oh God! Now next time you see me have a glass of wine, I'm going to be in the corner with my eyes just like staring at it, wondering if I'm enjoying myself on this earth.
Yeah. Okay, but so getting into non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
I definitely, that's one of my big tips too. Because for me, I felt like what I was more into was the treat and the ritual of like, this is the end of the day. This is when I get to start having fun and stop thinking about work. And using it as a crutch for social situations, finding other crutches to use for social situations.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, staying home.
Yeah, or just talking a lot.
Yeah.
Not letting other people get a word in.
Absolutely.
That's a huge crutch that I lean on constantly.
What's like the hardest? Was it just the social thing that was difficult, or like...
Yeah, I'd say it was also as comics, we get free drinks a lot.
Yeah.
And so everyone asked if I was saving a lot of money, and I was like, not really, because we can get free beer like most nights of the week.
Yeah.
So
it's actually forced upon us. It feels financially irresponsible to not use the drink tickets.
In a way, yeah. Something that I was pleasantly surprised about is I thought for some reason my friends were going to be really like, what, you're not drinking? And then I remembered I'm not a 20-year-old frat boy. And everybody was pretty okay, like more than okay. Yeah. Everyone was like, cool.
Imagine if somebody in your friend group had been like, Kate's such a loser, not drinking anymore.
Like, bitch, don't you have a Roth IRA? Like, fuck you. Yeah. So that was a pleasant surprise. And I think that if that's something holding this person back, is maybe worrying about social stuff, then your friends will more likely than not be very happy for you and supportive in discovering your sobriety.
The question specifically said, like, do you have any good tips and tricks for not descending into substance abuse? And I thought that wording is very revealing. Mm-hmm. And I think I do often think about alcohol in the same way, where it's like I treat it like you would a hard drug, where it's like, this has an incredible potential for danger.
Yeah, I think, alcohol's so present in everything we do culturally that I think sometimes people don't take it seriously. And to have that awareness that it can, like, fuck you up.
I personally like to create little rules for myself.
I'll bet you do. What are some of them? Are they like Dua Lipa's rules, or are they different?
One, don't drink before. No drinks before any comedy sets.
Yeah, me neither.
Because I'll do tongue twisters during my set and say the punchline at the wrong time. Yeah. Two,
don't let them in.
I don't ever have more than 2 drinks at one time. If I do, that is considered a bender. If I have more than 2 drinks on any night, it's like a whoa night.
Bad girl alert.
Yeah. It's like, it better be a bachelorette party. Okay. Like, other people better be doing coke if I'm going to have more than 2 drinks. That has to be the vibe for that to be appropriate for me personally at this point.
So do you ever open your 3rd drink and look around like, you know what to do? Like, get out a fistful of blow.
No, I'll be honest. I have not been invited to a bachelorette party in a very long time.
Oh, okay. I'll get engaged and then you'll be invited.
Thank you so much.
And I'll let them know that that's the only reason we're getting engaged, because I'm sad for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your 3rd rule?
Third rule is I don't drink more than 1 night a week.
Okay.
So I don't want to waste it on like a lame weeknight where I'm doing comedy.
Yeah.
I've got to really save it up for the coolest people that I'm going to be around. So if you ever see me with a beer in my hand,
that's
just
like
know
a huge fucking compliment.
This is the social highlight of my week.
And then next time we're hanging out and you don't have a beer, I'll know what you really think of me.
I can, with in certain exceptions, I can use it as a crutch if I'm having a really hard time, but that better be like the hardest time of my month. I can't be a little crybaby and say, this was hard and so was it yesterday.
Is that our advice, to just not be a fucking crybaby?
No.
Huh?
No.
Fine then, my advice.
My advice is to get really into kombucha and non-alcoholic beer and wine and make
Diet
rules.
Coke.
Yeah. Okay, that was a warm-up question. That was an easy. That was a softball. Okay,
Yeah.
This is the real meat and potatoes of this podcast.
Okay.
Are you fucking ready?
More ready than ever.
Okay. I've been dating this person for almost 8 years now. I started dating them and was aware of an age gap between us, 5 years. So we took things slow and went on cute dates together. Time passes and we have been growing more and more divided. I like to have alone time often, and I know I should cut down on the time I spend relaxing in my preferred way, video games, outdoor activities, etc. Over the years, I've tried to introduce them to my friends, and they can't seem to enjoy themselves, or they have issues with some of them. I've tried to share my hobbies and introduce them to new things. We tried snowboarding, but they preferred skiing. And the more and more I open up, the more it feels like I've been talking to an imaginary friend. They respond, but it never seems like it was processed or that it was received. There used to be deep conversation in our relationship, but lately it's been quiet and it's been testy. I'll try to initiate an avenue of conversation that isn't with their current mood, or they'll have some other excuse like now's not the time, or they'll push the conversation away altogether and the situation devolves into an argument. We already had a near breakup during COVID, and now it feels like we're headed right back to that space. We can't even do chores around the house together. They micromanage everything I try to do to help. Should I truly be thinking about leaving this person and trying to let us both heal from this relationship?
I have to address something really quickly.
Yeah.
Why is it such a big deal if they want to ski when you're snowboarding?
100%.
You can still do that next to each other.
Deeply revealing. Well, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure. Do they make you do it on different mountains? I've never been.
No, this isn't Johnny Tsunami. You can do it at the same time.
I think this message smacks of the issue is not the issue.
You want to talk micromanaging? Skiing is, you can sit together. The only thing you can't do is nothing. Shut up. I'm sorry. That is gonna haunt me.
I just feel like you've been with someone for 8 years, and the longer a relationship goes on, the more I feel like you become glad that you have different hobbies. Like, unless you can't find any time together, all of these things are positives in your relationship, except for the fact that they're mean to you and they don't make you feel loved and they don't make you feel happy. And
Yeah.
I feel like your brain can't comprehend that this person who was so good to you for so long and who you love so much, your brain can't comprehend that there's just not that love and chemistry underneath it. So you're trying to grasp at like incompatibilities.
Yeah. And it's hard when you've put that much time in a relationship too, to admit that like you're not happy.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you made it through COVID. You're like cemented together,
Yeah.
fused. I don't know anyone who made it through COVID.
I was about to list someone and I can't.
You're like, oh yeah, last week they got
Yeah.
hot girl summer. No, that's I do truly think that like sticking on all of the individual issues is like not the actual issue. The issue is that the more you open up, the more it feels like you've been talking to an imaginary friend. That's like a deeply sad sentence.
It's really
to
sad.
say.
I wonder, it's interesting the way it started out with an age gap and then that seemed to have nothing to do with anything by the end of the like query.
Does it or does it not? I mean, it sounds like what they're trying to say is that there are so many incompatibilities and that the age gap might play into like example. Oh, here's a good thing. I mean, we don't know your ages. You've been together for 8 years, so let's assume the younger one is at the very least 26. But
if it's in the state of Colorado, that's my hope too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're writing in from Texas, stop.
Then I don't know the laws.
Unfollow. The thing is that if they're 26, and it's like one of the main things was like, they don't like my friends.
That's always hard.
Yeah, what if your friends are like what if their friends are like in their going out phase and your friends are in your like Settlers of Catan phase? So of course they're not going to like your friends, but also
I've been on both sides of that. Where like someone's older and someone's younger. And I don't know, like even if you like doing different activities, that doesn't. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Do you think it's important that your friends like your partner? And to what degree do they have to like your partner?
It matters to me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't, but just because we don't all have the same interest doesn't mean like, okay, for example, Liv meets a lot of my friends. I'm gay. I'm dating a gay person. All my friends from college are really lovely and very straight. And Liv goes to a dinner party with all straight girls and tells them that Mark Ruffalo is a 9/11 truther. And this broke their fucking heads.
Well, what's the truth about 9/11?
He doesn't know that we know everything. And he
just wants to find the truth.
He has doubts about whether it was like real.
He staged 9/11
and that steel can't melt. This is a Mark Ruffalo quote.
Well, we all know steel can't melt, right? But I didn't know that meant that 9/11 was staged. I thought the buildings fell down because the plane ran into them. I didn't know steel had to melt for a building to fall down.
Well, then I think you and Mark Ruffalo would have a lot to talk about. But to give straight girls a reason to doubt Mark Ruffalo's integrity is like fucking earth-shattering.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, we had a great dinner. It was
So what you're saying is
had a really nice time.
Your straight girlfriends were all like, okay, word.
And one of them had like airdropped everyone a link. It was pretty funny. So it doesn't mean you don't have to get along. Not everyone has to get along all the time.
Yeah. I specifically find myself looking for, in the people that I date, such a spectacularly different energy than I look for in friendship.
Oh, that's a good point.
That to me, I would find it kind of surprising if they ever had fun with my friends in a more meaningful way. I want them to have great respect for my friends as people and like wish the best for them and not like try to trip them
and not sabotage their life and like get them fired or something.
I want my friends to think that that's like a nice person who treats me well, but I certainly don't want us ever to like hang out as a group except for perhaps once a year in a situation that's specifically meant to honor me.
Yeah. That's
all I want.
Why did you say your birthday like that? Why did you say it in that way?
Because it might not be a birthday party because I'm not a big birthday party person, but it might be a big like career achievement.
That was my bias because in my mind I was like, you're describing my birthday, so whoops, that was a me thing.
No, there are so many ways one can honor oneself with an event.
You're not making any sense. No, the older I get too, and the more comfortable I am with like silence and things that 10 years ago would have driven me to madness, the more I can appreciate that everyone's just being themselves. And just because we're not all trying to like start a business together doesn't mean that my friends and my partner don't like each other.
Yeah. And I guess I do err on the side of like, I don't think it's ever a mistake to break up with someone, because I think that if it was a mistake, you would just get back together. And I've never met a couple that broke up and got back together and was like, yeah, we shouldn't have broken up. They're always like, thank God we broke up.
Yeah,
so
you learned something from it. Yeah. Also, not for nothing, some people's friends fucking suck. maybe this person's got some toxic friends, like friends that you met in middle school that if you met them today, you'd be like, Jesus Christ.
Over the years, I've tried to introduce them to my friends, and they can't seem to enjoy themselves, or they have issues with some of them. I can't tell if they're like trying to start drama with your friends, or whether they're they just don't like hanging out with your friends. Because if I felt pressured to go to an event full of people that were not my friends, but were just someone else's friends,
that's like, not the most comfortable position.
I have friends who are very important to me, who I've known for a really long time. And if I went to an event filled with their friends and was expected to enjoy myself 100% of the time, you just didn't pick those people.
Yeah, I'd like to know this person's definition of enjoying themselves and their expectation for their partner around their friends.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that it feels like a lot of these issues could be non-issues if there was a lot of love in the relationship. But it's so clear that there isn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they ski. So it's like, what's to love? I'm never going to get over that. I'm sorry.
It also does boil down to like a Reddit question with the headline, like, can a skier and a snowboarder really love each other? Or is the relationship always doomed? Can a 26-year-old and a 31-year-old ever really connect?
We'll never know.
Yeah.
What's the biggest age gap you've dated?
A crime.
Oh. Spicy.
No, I was the victim. I was the victim. Don't worry.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. No, actually, to be honest, I think the crime one wasn't the biggest age gap. I think that the first comedy relationship I have might have been my biggest age gap.
Yeah. Psychologically, too, I'm sure. Just knowing guys out there.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about an age gap relationship is that I think for most of them, if it's a real relationship and it's not just being predatory, is that I think you usually start where you're at the same phase in life. A 24-year-old and a 31-year-old are genuinely in the same headspace, but that just means that they're moving at completely different rates.
Yeah.
And so within 6 months, you're not going to be at the same headspace anymore.
Yeah. Hopefully.
What was your biggest age gap?
8.
Oh. Which 8? 11 and 19 or?
No, I'm 28 and 21.
Okay. That's pretty. And were you the 28 or the 21?
I was the 28-year-old. It was my first queer relationship. And in ways, I think that I was very emotionally stunted because I didn't come out until I was 28.
What all the older people in age gap relationships. Were they wise beyond their years too?
Not really. Like, I think that I was just emotionally not there.
Yeah.
And because it was so weird when I started having queer relationships, I felt like I was starting over.
Yeah.
With like a lot of dynamics, and it did feel like I was in the same place that I was when I was dating, like in college. So yeah, very admittedly, I was like emotionally stunted.
I also am a bit of a age gap relationship truther. Like outside of like
because steel doesn't melt.
Yeah. The steel of your heart can't be melted by the jet fuel of someone else's bad relationship communication. Over there? No, the biggest age gaps I've had in relationships, the person was very nice to me and there wasn't a weird power dynamic. Like even the older comic that I dated who was a lot older than me was also so bad at comedy. So the power dynamic still felt really even.
Yeah. Financially, I'd say we were equals for better or for worse.
Yeah.
In my age gap relationship.
Word.
So.
But
isn't that great?
I did grow up in a town. It was a military town. And my first date was with a soldier. Most girls' first dates were with soldiers. My first kiss was with a dude who had a whole ass job and had like fired drones or whatever. And I was
so
like,
hot.
And I was like, I hope I get into college.
Oh my God. He's like, I stay awake at
No,
night.
we met in an open mic. His first text to me was, how old are you? And I lied. And
How long did you guys date?
for like a few months, and then he told me he was getting deployed, and I felt so betrayed. I cried at my high school debate tournament.
That's so...
And then we were in a bar at one of his gigs because he was a music open micer, and I cried about not getting into Duke, and he comforted me by putting his hand on my thigh, and I remember it vividly.
Yeah, those memories don't leave.
I'll be fine with a state school if I can keep having people's hands on my thighs.
I also did debate in high school. Did you know that?
No.
What?
Wait, yeah, I did.
Yeah, because I did LD. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah. I did team policy. Could we ever connect?
That's how
like skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah, it's so different.
It's like she crochets and I knit. Could we ever get past that?
That's how that sounds.
She crochets and I knit, and whenever I talk to her, it feels like there's a subtle undertow of rage.
Yeah, it feels like I'm dating an imaginary friend who does something slightly different.
Yeah. Okay, so to sum up this question, I think the issue's not the issue. I am so sad for your pain. It feels like a really hard time in this relationship. Honestly, you did submit this question a while ago, so it might be over by now.
That makes sense because was it closer to COVID than now?
No, only like a
Okay.
couple months ago. This is just one of the good, longer questions that I got from back when the podcast was up and running.
I feel you.
I think that you should definitely break up. And if you guys can both find a way back to each other, that's quite possible. And you can do that. But you can't. It's harder to find a way back to each other when you're so enmeshed and there's so many expectations of a relationship and cohabitation already. So break up, find yourself again. Maybe focus on your own happiness and have them do the same, and you might meet on a better level later on.
And maybe in the winter you guys could just go tubing together for a little bit. And it's like
tube in the winter, you'll freeze.
No, it's like sledding.
Oh,
Yeah.
in the snow.
And then I think that would really level the playing field of skill sets.
Yeah.
And that could really bring you guys together.
You could even get dinner and see a movie. Tale as old as time. Okay. This next question is from the Patreon. So thank you to the Patreon subscriber. Again, you should all subscribe to the Patreon. It's $3. Someone said, would you encourage someone who thinks they are funny, thus compromising their objectivity in any demonstrable fashion, to engage in comedy recreationally? What is the right space for amateurs? Zoom in on the facial expression.
Will you read that first sentence again?
Yeah. Would you encourage someone who thinks they are funny, thus compromising their objectivity in any demonstrable fashion, to engage in comedy recreationally?
So that was all one sentence. That's what I was afraid of.
Lots of us are autistic here, and it's fine.
Oh, we love that spectrum.
I think that you thinking that you whether or not you are funny is a moot point. You could quite possibly be the funniest person in the world, and stand up could never be that fun for you because it's a more particular skill set. It's about like let's say that you really love running. The question is like, should I compete in this particular local 5K? Well, it's like, well, you love running. You should go to the 5K and check it out. And you might realize that it's your thing and that the competition and the community really brings out the best in you. And you love to do it, whether recreationally or competitively. Totally. You might also just find that it's not your vibe. It's crowded and you don't like the course they set up and you'd rather run on trails near your house. That's totally fine too. You should definitely show up and figure out. So your question, what's the right space for amateurs? Open mics.
Open mics.
You can usually find a comedy open mic in your city. A lot of times comedy events will be on Facebook because comedy is run by old people.
Yeah, for some, comedy is it's like comedy and people that are still pissed about Benghazi are the only ones keeping Facebook alive. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, me either. But you should definitely show up. There's nothing to be lost.
Yeah. What do you tell people?
You might be a woman. In which case,
that's what I'm trying to figure out here.
It could quite easily ruin your life if you are mistreated in ways that women often are. So if you're a woman and you show up and the vibes are bad, I would recommend leaving immediately. As soon as you recognize the vibes are bad, leave immediately and try to find other women and only go with other women, because that is quite common. I mean, there are open mics even in Denver where we have a bunch of women in the scene. Sometimes you'll show up and it's just men with terrible vibes there.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to name names, but that's only because they all moved to Austin.
Yeah, where the baddies go.
No, they didn't all move to Austin. Some of them are still here.
To eat barbecue and use the F slur.
Only the F slur? They've got new slurs every day.
It was the one I could comment on, so I figured that I would shoot my shot.
I'm going to be in Austin in November, by the way. Make sure you come out to that show. It's in a different part of town, though. The scene there is very fractured.
I don't know how to explain it. It's different when Hannah does it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the best way I can
I'll be saying
it.
the F slur, but a different one you haven't heard.
Yeah. Ribbit, ribbit. I'm torn with advice because if it's like a white cisgender guy that wants to do comedy, I'm like,
you want them to not? Because here's the thing, Kate. The reason that I think that you have a wrong opinion in this situation is that, have you met the absolute scourge of humanity that is the white cisgender man who has always wanted to do comedy but never does?
Yeah, I've sucked a dick.
That man will ruin your fucking life.
Yeah, I've been on dating apps. Yes, I've been on dating apps with, because I'm technically bisexual, so I know it's like I get
technically
paid.
Bisexual.
Well, I know I get paid to just like not enjoy the company of men whatsoever, but state school.
You sold out. By munching muff.
If I hear this one more time today, yes. No, I'm bisexual. I think we can tell what team has the ball right now. Don't get your nose riled up. Yeah, I used to have a picture with me holding a microphone on a dating app, and so I was set to boy settings.
Yeah.
So I have heard before about guys that really want to try comedy, and they're like, no, I've got a notebook of jokes and stuff.
Here's my thing. Conversely to that, one of my favorite people to date is guys who have tried comedy once, realized they're very bad at it, and never tried again, and they have no delusions that it's going to be their thing.
I wish I had met more men like that.
Totally. Or they don't have to have necessarily been that bad at it, but like just decided that it wasn't something they were going to pour a ton of energy into.
Yeah, and they realize how hard that it can be.
But none of this, to be clear, I'm not making any assumptions about you. I think most people who want to try comedy are more my kin than my enemy.
I like that. That's a nice way to put
I'm
that.
I'm very excited for you to have a passion. I think you probably are funny if you think you're funny. I think the people that we're talking about being annoying are a pretty small subgroup.
Yeah,
of the
we know
population.
too much, so I think that's why I'm biased.
They're particularly loud, so they make a fucking impression. But you should go. You should figure it out, and you should specifically not go. You should not live in confusion for the rest of your life about whether or not you should have. You should try the thing, and you might very well enjoy it. If you're a woman, you should try the thing before 10 p.m. Bring a friend. A lot of women like to find classes because it's a way to connect with another woman. Not all of the classes are good. Look up the reviews for sure, but it is another way to meet women before you go to an open mic that could potentially be filled with men.
Honestly, a huge benefit of classes, I think, content aside, is I see in like Denver in particular, people that go to classes instantly have buddies to go to mics with.
Yeah.
Which I never had when I first started, and I think it would have been a much more pleasant experience.
It's the fraternity of the comedy experience.
Yeah, it's having peers at your same level that you find. What I tell people when they mention something about doing comedy is to go to an open mic and they will either like get excited about it, which is great, or see how unfunny half the people are.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I can do that.
Absolutely.
So
I always went to one in a town before I went up because I wanted to see kind of where I stood.
yeah, me too. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Patti Smith, in her book Just Kids, wrote about like how she used to get really pissed seeing musicians live.
Really?
And then she realized, like, throughout time that it was just her wanting to do that.
Oh, for me, it's anytime I see a musical or a stage production, I get pissed because I want to do that so bad. When I see stand-up, I'm like, yeah, our lives both suck.
Yeah, but you're also like an established Sam that's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. But God, when I see a musical, someone with a little hat and they're doing little step, when they have character shoes on, it pisses me off, especially when I was a kid. I couldn't watch stage productions.
Because you wanted it too bad?
I wanted it so bad, dude.
I'm still kind of there.
So fucking bad.
But yeah, that also I think like is an urge that you should listen to.
100%.
I'll get you some character shoes.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast today. This has been Help with Hannah Jones. This is Kate McLaughlin. Kate, tell them where to find you and what you have coming up in this coming week.
So I run a show called Dictopia with Lee Robinson, and our next one is going to be in August. We don't know when.
Word.
Tickets sell kind of quickly. It's at the O Theater.
They always sell out within like an hour. It's fucking crazy. They're a phenomenon. They're the Taylor Swift of queer events in Denver.
Except for when Taylor Swift comes to Denver.
Yeah, then Taylor Swift is the queer event.
Well, so Hannah told me to look at my events coming up, and that's the next event I have coming up.
Word.
Is going to Taylor Swift. So
I'm so jealous of you and angry. It's okay.
Oh, fine, I'll get you character shoes. And then I run a podcast with my friend BK Sherrod called Degrassi Knoll. It's a Degrassi recap podcast.
Phenomenal. And you can find me at Hannah Jones Cool. You can find everything there, including clips and the Patreon and the form to submit questions of your own. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.